And good evening. Welcome to G's One of One. Appreciate y'all for joining me for another Sunday night. Should be a fun one. As always, we like to give it about 5 minutes just to let everybody get the notifications. Obviously, at 6 o'clock on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. So, the assumption is that everybody's day is, calming down, and they have an opportunity, if they so choose, to come and hang out over here on G's One of One, where we talk about all things GLP. So, very interesting week. So it'll be, I think, very interesting tonight to try to go ahead and get into our topics very shortly. So just bear with us, and we're gonna actually get started really soon. Just wanted to allow people to actually get those notifications. So once they get those notifications that we live, they can come on over and hang out with us for about an hour, because that's usually what it is. It's usually about an hour that we hang out and we talk about our topics. So, but like I said, thank you for everybody that has subscribed as of late. Our channel is growing, so I'm very grateful for that. Hey, Jolene, how you doing? Very grateful for that. If you're actually in the chat right now and you've joined us right on time, I'd like you to go ahead and hit that like button. As I've seen, we got 4 likes and 5 bodies. So, let's just get one more like and we can even the score. And if you're actually not following G's One of One, let's go ahead and tap that bell, so that way you can actually get notified when we're on, and subscribe, because we actually, have good conversation here on Sunday nights. Oh, I know you did, Geraldine. Appreciate you. How you feeling? After the accident and all that, have you do you feel back to 100%? Hopefully you do. The hope is that you do. So we're going to just give it about another minute, since you guys actually are on time tonight. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the part where some people actually do random videos to kind of like start their channel to keep things, I guess, from getting boring. So I like to just do a little bit of housekeeping or church announcements, or the various multitude of things that people like to call it when you fill time. I go ahead and use it to talk through anything that I might have missed, and say hellos in the chat. So very excited. So since everybody is here, or most of everybody is here, we'll go ahead and oh no, still slow going. Well, we actually wish you well, Geraldine. I know you'll get there. Hey, how you doing, Teddy? How you doing, man? Oh, you say skinny man. What'd he say? Hello and good evening, skinny man. Great to see you. You the skinny man, Teddy. You the skinny man, legit. I think you hit your goal weight, didn't you? Ain't you in like maintenance right now? I think you in maintenance, right? And congratulations on securing that master's degree. Proud of you, man. That's a good job. Nice. Hey, Z. Good evening. Glad everybody's showing up. So I guess the 9 o'clock hour is a good time. So I figured that. That's why I kind of waited a little bit. I said I go live right at 9 p.m. because this is the time of night where I think everybody's kind of free, and we're not interrupting the day at this point. And we can come on and chit chat and all of that. So, all right, everybody, we right under that 5-minute mark. So let's get going. So as you've seen, the title was clothing pictures, and the mirror. Is what it is that actually separates itself from the scale, right? It tells you the real. That's where you find authenticity, right? Is in the clothes, right? Because the way something fits isn't going to be a lie, right? The mirror, pictures, those are things that won't lie to you. Sometimes the scale can, right? And the reason why I say that is because of, hydration, right? Because sometimes we can be dehydrated, and not necessarily have enough water for our, smart scales to read appropriately. You know what I mean? So that can be a thing. And I got more lighting down here, so I don't know. I'm trying it out. I'm gonna see what it looks like. If I don't like it, it looks too like yellowing, because I do have the cool blue most of the time. But I seem like if I did a little more light, it would, So I'm messing around with it. So you'll see me go in and out with the light a little bit, just to see if I like it or not. What the differences are once I'm live. So this is without the light. So I'll go back and forth just to see, because at times, it said that it was a little dark, and then when I actually put the light on, it's a little bit too light. So I don't know. We'll go back and forth with that, and I'll decide what I like, whether I like the light or don't like the light. But there's that. So, so the thing is, thanks, Teddy. Yeah, it's just that I had more lighting. So that's actually a new light that I actually have, just to actually like illuminate a little bit more. So I wanted to just get a different look, like with a little bit more light to see, if it's illuminating, or not, because I don't want to be too yellow, then people think I got liver problems. And my liver pretty good, right now. So, but yeah, so I'll go back and forth just a little bit, messing around with it, just trying to see what it's like. So, but I mentioned the that because a lot of us, for the last several weeks have talked a bit about muscle loss, and going to the lowest possible scale weight and things of that nature. And the thing is, my biggest thing with that was I was asking people not to or to be specific, not to go down a rabbit hole, but I was telling a lot of the ladies, right, because the average age on these meds is probably somewhere around 45, right? So you got a lot of older ladies that's 55, 60, and a lot of the individuals that they following are a lot of times 30, 25, 30 years old, and the advice that they give sometimes may be off base for some of those that are actually in that arena, because somebody that's 25 or 30 years old is gonna have different skin elasticity than someone that is 55, 50, 55, 60. So the goals probably don't align with one another, because to tell you to get to the absolute lowest possible body weight means that you probably are losing some muscle there. You know what I mean? And we don't want you. Hey, how you doing, Grant? How you doing, Grant? You may be losing some muscle in that. So I was just telling the ladies that I'm completely okay with, you actually wanting to be at an appropriate or healthy, what they call a healthy BMI. That's cool. I was saying we don't want to be overshooting the mark, right? Because some people do overshoot the mark, and when you overshoot the mark, that's when you're at danger, right? So, or you can be in danger if you're overshooting the mark, right? So the thing is, to make it make sense, I'll use my own self, right? So because I carry nearly 100 pounds of skeletal muscle. Hey, Life of Vivi, how are you? Good. Glad to see you drop in and talk to. I gained 1.8 pounds from my July 3rd scan to August 2nd, but 1.1 of it is muscle. Oh, let me go back to that. That was muscle. Was it muscle loss or muscle? Oh, that was muscle. Nice, Grant. Nice. Yeah, man. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, I'm actually asking people to just make sure that they actually watching that, especially the older people, because we don't want them actually losing, that precious muscle, and then they take a fall, right? Because when you take a fall and then you actually, your bones aren't as strong, mortality rates increase with things like that. So there's a big distinction between younger versus older, 30 versus 60, you know what I mean? And taking the medication and following, the same path. I just think, well, obviously we all follow different paths because we all have different biology, like we're all different. We're all individuals. But when we're talking to the masses, it's just trying to make sure that we're being very careful, because what we don't want to do is actually, encourage them to go to the lowest possible body weight they can get to. And in doing that quickly, they actually lost some muscle, right? So that's the whole thing with that. We don't want that. So again, the thing is, it's absolutely okay if you want to actually go to a healthy BMI, because I'm all for that. But just know, what your body composition is when doing so. You know what I mean? And again, I started with saying I would use myself. So right now I'm 218 pounds, right? So my actual goal is to be 200 pounds, right? Because that would put me at about a 27 BMI, right? I'm at a 29 right now. That would put me at a 27 BMI, which for me would be a healthy weight. Why? Because with me carrying nearly 100 pounds of skeletal muscle, right? And you probably could do the math right off the top of your head. If I'm 200 pounds and 100 pounds is muscle, right? I probably don't need to go shooting beyond that. You know what I mean? Because I would have a lean athletic build at that weight. But now, if I went to the traditional BMI without reading my muscle and not knowing that I'm carrying nearly 100 pounds of muscle, and when I say that, I mean 97. My skeletal muscle is 97 pounds. So, and the thing is, if I'm going to 184, right, which is where absolute healthy BMI says for me to be at a 24, okay, I would have to be 184 pounds. I'm overshooting the mark for myself, right? Because at that point, there's no way I can get to 184 pounds without losing muscle. It's impossible. It's biologically, it's absolutely impossible for me to get to 184 pounds and not lose some of my muscle, and I don't want to lose any of my muscle because muscle is metabolically expensive, right? Because that's what actually allows us to burn fat, right? So right now I burn about 2,007 calories. But my basal metabolic rate is 2,007, so I'll burn that doing absolutely nothing. So that means that my TDEE is going to be somewhere around between 25 to 2,800 calories, even at 218 pounds, right? So that means I have to eat right around 2,100 calories, a day to remain in a deficit and still get where I want to go. Because I still want to lose the 18 pounds, but I want to do it smart. I only want to lose like half a pound, half a pound to maybe a pound, a week, but I would say half a pound. I probably want to lose about a half a pound a week because that would get me there safely. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. So you're talking about 2 pounds a month, over like I said, like a over a 6 month period, if I'm losing, let's say 4 pounds, right, that will probably overshoot the mark, right? You know what I mean? So I don't want to go that far. I'd rather lose a half a pound that'll get me right there, over like a 6 month period. Because everybody know I talked about on my last live last Sunday about doing the laser lipo, right, next year, right? Because I'm a big proponent of being able to do self-care, right? Because I know that I have still a good deal of subcutaneous fat around the waistline, right? That I know isn't going to go nowhere just by me actually doing workouts, not in a way that, will be aesthetically pleasing, for me. So that's where my consultation came in. I already had that. And even the doctor, the surgeon said that they don't want me to get, below the 200 pounds because that's taking it a bridge too far when the lowest weight I should be at, and my healthy BMI for me is 195 pounds, 195 pounds. So I could get to that, but it wouldn't make sense at that point. So my actual goal is just to actually weigh to get down to like 210, right? 209, 210. So I got to lose about 10 pounds. That's all I need to lose. And then I'll be in maintenance, and I'll be in maintenance because with me actually getting that procedure, I'm going to lose another probably 10 or 15 pounds based on them removing, that gallon of subcutaneous fat from the waist, from the abdomen and the flanks. So because they take about a gallon, which is right around 11 pounds, but I'll say give or take. So that's why I say 10 to 15 pounds. So if I get down to 210, 209, right, that's going to probably take me just shy of 200 pounds, right? So that will get me to the goal that I've been talking about. And a 6-foot male at 200 pounds is absolutely lean, and that carries 100 pounds of muscle is lean and muscular. So my goal is not to lose any of my muscle. I don't want to lose any of it because I want to carry it, to the new look. That's what I kind of mean by breaking it down and knowing that, before you actually just listen and say, hey, I'm going to lose the most weight I can possibly lose and get down to the lowest I can possibly get down to. You know what I mean? that's not what you should do. You know what I mean? Don't overshoot your mark. You know, and to just conclude on that point. And what I meant was a lot of, especially our like taller ladies. You know, you got ladies 5'8", 5'9", that's ending up 120 pounds. You know what I mean? And that's not. That's I mean, and your BMI at that point is probably somewhere around 18. You know, and that's putting you in an underweight category, right? So that's what you don't want to be. You don't want to be underweight. You want to still be in a healthy range, right? So that's kind of like what it is that we were talking about, just to bring things full circle for everybody in my own journey. Because personally, I had actually dipped down to 214, and I didn't feel well. I didn't feel good at that. Does insurance ever cover the laser procedure you're talking? No, insurance does not cover it, Grant. It does not. So this is something that I'm paying for out of my pocket and getting on my own because it's aesthetics. You know what I mean? I don't need or want or feel a need for a tummy tuck. Some people get a tummy. Tummy tuck is more invasive. That's when people get cut and sewed up. And this is not invasive like that. This is something that I'll still be completely awake for the whole time. And the actual device that they use is very micro. You know, it's super micro. It's little. And they're going to use that, and that's how they go in and remove it. And now it's laser lipo, because those fat cells that get cut away will never return. They'll never return. You could get new fat cells if you know. But with my lifestyle, I don't see it unless I get very sick and just can't do anything. I don't see myself getting that weight back because I religiously lift weights 3 to 4 times a week, and I walk at least a mile a day. So, you know, it'd be hard to just go back and just get all fat all of a sudden. You know what I mean? So once that fat is removed from around that waistline, it's gone forever. You know what I mean? So, and that procedure is laser lipo, and then they do skin tightening, because that's also a need, because once you actually stretch your skin to a certain degree, you do need some sort of tightening when you're not gonna get a tuck, right? Because I'm not getting a tummy tuck. I don't want anything like super invasive, you know what I mean? So that is a thing, you know what I mean? And the cost, you know, it generally costs you, it can cost you anywhere from like $8,000 to $10,000 to get, you know, the type of procedure I'm talking about. Because of the also with the skin tightening, you know what I mean? Because that's the other layer to it all, you know what I mean? Skin tightening costs you a couple grand by itself. So that is, you know, a thing. So that's next year. You know, like I said, I wanted to be on the medication for 2 years, do all of the lifestyle changes, make sure I get as, you know, healthy as possible, which my lab work says I'm optimally healthy. You know, I'm very healthy. So that's very good. And the weight is right there. You know, I just have, like I said, that, you know, 18 pounds, 20 pounds to go. And it's 10K plus. Yeah, it's between $8,000 and $10,000, Grant. It's about $8,000 to $10,000. That's what it is. Yeah. So you have to plan for something like that. But that's what my plan is. My plan is to get it next year. So because it's self-care. Because like I said, you come all this way. So I'm going to go 100%, because if I get, because with me, you know, my body being 320 pounds at one point, that comes with the territory. So now that I'm here and I want to be in a smaller, leaner body, I actually want to complete the look. And I know I'm never going to be satisfied with my midsection just through, working out, lifting weights, working out, because there's some things that's not going to accomplish. And that won't be accomplished by me doing that if I don't go and get the laser lipo. So I'm gonna do it. So, but I'm loud and proud about it, because a lot of guys aren't. They don't tell the truth, right? So I want to tell the truth and let people know I got very healthy. I did all the things. I'm doing all of the things. But sometimes you still need to actually provide yourself some self-care and do a little bit of extra. So that's why I'm actually, I actually do want to do that next year. But at the same time, you want to give yourself time, right? So I feel like you want to give yourself a few years. It's not something you decide over weeks or months. It takes years. And like I said, I'm doing it next year, because January 5th of 2027 will make 2 years of me being on the medical treatment and doing all of the things. So, that's fair, because I gave my body a couple years before I would do anything. And at that point, it kind of is what it is. You know what I mean? It kind of is what it is. That means that I've reached the point where I'm not gonna do anything drastic, by my lifting weights, walking, my body is kind of where it's at. So at that point, I feel like it's fair for me to go and do self-care and then get rid of something that I don't like or I'm not happy with at that point because I did the work. You know what I mean? But guys aren't open eye. People get this stuff all the time. I mean, tons. There's droves of them. I mean, look at TikTok and everything else. But a lot of the guys are just not honest. They don't tell people that they also get that once they do all of this work. And I'm honest because I know some people are interested and don't know, and they think about tummy tucks all the time. Tummy tucks are more invasive, and that's what people do. And they have the, that old scar that goes across the belly, right up, under that waistline. I'm not looking to do that because I don't feel I need something that invasive, right? This is minimally invasive, and I'll be up. You know what I mean? So it won't be something that you have to worry about, having a scar or anything like that. So I feel like I feel more than secure with having that because I like to put my shirts on and my midsection match everything else. And right now, I don't feel like it does. You know what I mean? And even over the next 6 months, I'm going to keep working. Right? You never stop working. I'm still gonna keep working. I'll be honest, and I'm interested in eventually too. Yeah, man. I'm all for it, man. I mean, look into it, man, and plan it out and get it done, man. You deserve it. All the work that you did, you know what I mean? Think about it. It's not like you're going to stop taking your medicine because, as a diabetic too, you're a diabetic. I'm not diabetic, you're diabetic, so I know you're not stopping taking your medicine. So you're going to keep taking medicine, and you have habits now that you're going to keep up. So you might as well take it all the way. You know what I mean? Like, you go all the way. And again, it's minimally invasive. It's not a tummy tuck. I'm not getting a tummy tuck. Tummy tuck, to me, is much more invasive because they're cutting you and then tightening it up. And I'm not doing that. I'm, actually getting the minimally invasive laser lipo and then skin tightening. So I'll get skin tightening. And the skin tightening is just helium, basically. So over a matter of months, right? 3 months, 6 months is the long term, but usually after about 2-3 months. After about 3 months, you'll kind of like see what you're going to look like, because what actually happens is you get that kind of V shape because what happens is once they remove that midsection, right? The abdomen fat, the flank fat, the fat from up top, right? Around the chest, under the chest, drains out too. So you actually end up with those wide shoulders and the slender waist. That's where the V shape comes in. You know what I mean? So yeah. I did the same thing, and me and my wife went together because she's pretty much going for the same exact thing. And the people we talked to were very good. Like we were super comfortable there and everything. You know what I mean? So they were very good. Like, I seen all their work and everything. So we were comfortable with the office. So this is who we most likely will go with. So. Oh, Traveling T's in here. I didn't see. Hey, Traveling T. So that's the thing. That's the next thing. You know what I mean? That I'm thinking about this coming next year. But as of right now, like I said today, I'm actually down. You're so worth it. We ate the many restaurants. yeah, that's right, Geraldine. But my wife is doing really good. For most those that keep track with her, you know what I mean? She's on the 12.5. She's happy there. She's losing the weight that she wants to, and she feels good. So we don't have no plans of moving her up or down, so that's kind of where she felt like she wanted to sit. And I think that's where she'll actually, be, probably stay there, for the duration of her journey because she's so close. She's about 10 pounds away from maintenance. She's fluctuating between 145 and 148, like week to week right now. 145, 148. She's doing the same stuff, walking resistance training. She has a vest, so she walks on her pad. She has a vest and she has weights too. So, for those that want to know. Oh, you want a tummy tuck? Okay. Yeah, so that's a little more invasive. You know what I mean? I don't really want that. I want the least invasive as possible that could possibly deliver the same result. So what made me decide on the person we decided on was because what made me decide is because they actually had people with our like bodies that they showed us that came and got stuff done and it turned out the right way. Meaning, like, there were men in there that were my height and heavier than me. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe 5, 10 pounds heavier, and they got an amazing look. You know what I mean? They're heavier than me, and they ended up looking like wow. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I'm thinking, and I'm talking about still losing 5 or 10 pounds before I even get it done. So I think I hope that I get the same exact outcome, based on what we saw. And then my wife really loved it because she's not into like the video body, people with the big behinds and all that, like really like super, shown, she's more into the natural. So, and this office is very natural. Like they stick to your own body. They're not doing anything like, super crazy looking, you know what I mean? So it looks very natural, which it is, because all you're doing is literally, removing fat. Hey, what's going on, Darren? Came in and hit the like button. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. I'm glad to see you doing them videos now, man. You get more comfortable popping them videos out. You keep on going. So, cause the next we're gonna be on live with you. We know the lives is coming. So y'all heard it here first. Get ready, cause Darren about to start going live. He about to start going live, and we're gonna be on Darren lives soon. Y'all, I'm calling it. I'm calling it, Darren. I asked you to do more video, and this is what the second video I seen in less than a month's time. Yeah, you showing off. So I mean, hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I done called it, and that's it. So y'all just go ahead and get ready. I made the announcement tonight, so spread the word. Darren is going to be going live very soon. Very soon. Oh, man. Darren is next up, man. Next up. So the other thing, I was perusing, right, and seeing is people that have gotten to the highest dose, because a lot of us are on 15 milligrams of Zepbound, Mounjaro, right? And some people are concerned about, where do they go if they plateauing, right? Oh, I'm at a plateau and this, that, and the third. And I'm here to say help is on the way. Why? Because there are so many weight loss drugs that are in the pipeline that you're not going to have any worry, especially not with, what's being considered, receptor burnout and things like that, because with them having so many things in the pipeline, there's other receptors that are untapped that, if you fall into that realm, you know what I mean, of actually, not being able to lose any more weight and you feel like you need to, you'll have other options, because you hit that highest dose, right? Where you can start on other, you know what I mean? Now, obviously, a lot of people now are on Zepbound, they're on Mounjaro, and, some of them will actually have to, probably, so going to something like a semaglutide, which is a single receptor, would not be helpful. It may allow you to maintain, that may be possible, but to actually lose more weight is not as likely. You know what I mean? It's not as likely. So that's the thing. You know what I mean? It's not as likely because you're going from double receptor to single receptor. You know what I mean? So the thing is, what I would say is you may have to move to something like a triple receptor or a different receptor, right? And what I mean by that is you have stuff like CagriSema, right? That's coming out. And you have retatrutide. So those are two that would actually probably be helpful in aiding people in losing, the rest of those pounds that they, still have if they actually are, a ways away from their goal. If you're close to your goal like me, I should be okay on what I'm taking as long as I continue, like I said, to do all the things that I'm doing. If I continue doing what I'm doing is, very slight calorie reduction, weightlifting 4 times a week like I'm doing now. And that's new for me because I used to live twice a week. Now I live 4 days a week, and, walk 4 days, 5 days a week. So with that, I know that I can get to my last couple of pounds that I want to get off before having, the minor procedure that I'm talking about, that I talked about, because that's how it is that I should do it in order to spare my muscle, right? Because what I don't want to do is lose any muscle. I don't want to lose any muscle at all. I want to keep my muscle because that determines, how your recomp comes out. You know what I mean? How you look well and how you feel, and how it is that you actually, burn calories, right? Because like I said, my BMR is 2007. So with BMR being 2007, that means that I'm burning that just doing nothing. So, yep. So there's that. Next, I wanted to talk. Oh, so Cagrosema was the other one I said that. With that coming out, that's more amylin that works on the amylin. So it's kind of a combination. So that's another option that's going to be coming out, I think, pretty soon. Retatrutide and that, I think are probably going to be like have a decent stronghold, in the industry. I don't think gaining weight is going to be a problem. You know what I mean? Because the thought now is, hey, Paula, how are you? And Traveling T, what is the recovery time? So are you talking about for the laser lipo? Because if that's the case, it's just 1 week. They actually told me it's just like 3 days. But, the office manager said that he's a little more conservative than the actual surgeon. And he said you want to give yourself about a week and at least 2 weeks without any resistance training. So that's what I mean when I say it's so minimally invasive. And this is something that's untapped. And this is why I want to talk about it in our community, because I feel like we shy away from it. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to talk about any type of procedures once they actually get down to their desired weight. You know what I mean? So when you get to a desired weight, and you're healthy, right? Your markers are good, then this is called self-care. You know what I mean? And that's what we're talking about. Like, have that self-care. Now I titled this, clothing, pictures, the mirror, telling is what tells you the truth, sometimes when the scale lies. And that's the thing. Everybody know I'm about the numbers, but at the same time, sometimes when I say the scale is off, it's not because of the scale, it's because of us, right? Because we don't hydrate appropriately. And the bioimpedance scales are highly reactive based on body water and hydration. And sometimes it's tough for us to actually get as hydrated as we would like, taking the medication, slowing our with the gastric slowing of our systems. So that's where the scale would be, improper at times, right? So that's what I mean when I say the mirror, your clothing, right? These are things that you can rely on to actually still tell you the truth. You know what I mean? Because truth be told, when I didn't take my pen for that week, there was a week that I didn't take my pen. I told the story about how I actually had, was feeling kind of, not as good right before I went on vacation. I want to say, what was that? That was July 3rd, right before the 4th of July. And I went to the doctor, had my blood work and everything, and they just said I had a little bit of, slight low iron. So, hey, sweatpants and champagne. Slight low iron or what have you. But that resolved, and it really realistically was just that, I probably wasn't eating exactly what I should have been eating, so me being I found out 214, I didn't feel as good that I feel being at 218, like today I'm 218, right? But I had got as high as 224 when I was off the pen, and I was actually purposely over fueling my body. I was fueling my body beyond what I normally do to actually get myself back to where I wanted to be and feel how I wanted to feel. You know what I mean? So that was kind of purposeful. Now I'm back to like that weight that I wanted to be at. You know what I mean? So, so it's going good. You know what I mean? It's going amazing. You know what I mean? We lifting weights and we getting bigger and stronger. You know what I mean? So that's just the name of the game. You know what I mean? Get that muscle. You know what I mean? Keep recomping. And just stay healthy. So and know all the numbers. You know what I mean? So there's that. But what I was actually talking about was about the receptors, right? So I'll read a little bit about that, right? So psychologically, permanent receptor burnout is a myth, okay? So in human biology, GLP-1 receptors don't become damaged, destroyed, or permanently ruined. They don't, that just doesn't happen. Hey, she is Tamika, long time no see. Hopefully you're feeling well and everything's going good for you. Yeah, hope you're feeling well, Tamika. However, tolerance, right, where the body adapts to the drug, making it feel less intense, is a real phenomenon, for some people, right? So what's the difference though? What's the difference between between burnout, right? What's the difference between, that's good to hear, Tamika. So the difference between burnout and adaptation, right? That's what I want to talk about a little bit tonight, right? So let's get into specific definition, right? So receptor desensitization is when introduced to constant high levels of medication, your body naturally adapts by slightly reducing the number of active receptors on the cell surface. So it's called regulation, right? That's not permanent. It's a normal biological response to maintain balance. So just to make that make sense. Appetite adaptation, right? The intense immediate food noise, silencing, and rapid gastric emptying that patients feel at the beginning of treatment often mellows out over time. Your body assimilates to the medication, making weight loss or blood sugar control settle in a more sustainable, gradual pace, right? So, and let's talk about tolerance versus a true plateau. So sometimes what feels like burnout is simply a plateau reached when the body adjusts to the lower caloric set point or because of a lack of adherence to lifestyle changes, diet, hydration, and protein intake. So that's a real important one, right? Because sometimes what we confusing things with the fact that our body is smaller, right? So when you have a smaller body, right? When you have a smaller body, sometimes what actually indeed happens is you end up, let me switch the light back because I feel like it's, so what happens is sometimes what happens is you indeed end up losing slower because your body doesn't burn as fast, right? And so my body's pretty weird though because I feel like, well, I know based on my scale that just like I got a high bit of skeletal muscle, like I said, nearly 100 pounds of skeletal muscle. I also, feel like for me, my body is still burning at a high rate because I'm still absolutely doing nothing. My body burns 2,007 calories if I don't do nothing at all, right? So that's a blessing to some people would say because, some people, would they literally eat 1,500 calories, right? Here I am. I have a body that burns 2,007 without me doing absolutely nothing at all. You know what I mean? So the thing is, that means that I also have to eat at least 2,100 calories, you know what I mean, to remain, with the proper energy to lift weights the way that I do now, right? So that is a thing. So you gotta this is why you gotta know all of these numbers, you know what I mean? Even though sometimes it can get, a little bit tiresome. At the same time, to make sure that you losing at the appropriate weight, that you slow enough that you're not losing muscle is important. You know what I mean? You don't want to be losing muscle while you actually, kind of, trying to lose the fat, so you want to just lose the fat, especially when you don't got a lot to lose, you know what I mean? So, cause like me being in this space where, I only have 18 pounds I can lose, it's your 2000 BMR. Yes, 2007. That's my BMR. That's my BMR. So that means that my TDEE is anywhere between 25 to 2,800. You know what I mean? So if I eat 2,100 and I do all the things, I can still lose weight. So it's important to know what that BMR is because that's how you set. You know what I mean? Those daily calories. And I don't count calories. Right? Because I eat the same things. So if I'm eating a certain thing, I already know what calories exist. And I eat, like I told everybody, for me, everything is kind of rinse and repeat, right? It's the same thing. So that way I already know, what it is that I'm doing without having to do all that. It just makes it less mentally stressing for me because, and now that's a variety of foods. Because anybody that go check my page out, you guys can see in all the posts that I do, you can see that I actually gave the keys to everybody on all the stuff, right? If you go on my post, you can see what it is that you need to eat for a week to actually lose fat, to actually gain muscle, right? You can actually go, I even put it on there, I even broke down the differences in protein from one color egg to the next. You know what I mean? You add 2210. Okay, that's good. That's good. If that's what you burning naturally, that's good. 1478, but I'm old. See, 1478, but I'm old. So that just means that you still need to keep your calories right around 1,500. You know what I mean? So at least, if you're still trying to lose weight, still keep it there because you want to keep your energy up, because if you're working out and all that, you want to keep that energy up. and for women's health, you posted. Thank you. Hey, that's what's up, Tamika. I'm glad it's helpful. And that's the thing. I hope people, actually do go look at my post because I put a lot of information out. You know what I mean? I feel like more than a lot of people. Like I put the specifics in there. All types of foods. It should be like everybody got the keys to doing all of these things. If they just go to my page and look at the posts, you can see fat loss, versus muscle loss, what you should be eating. I mean, I even got stuff in there that will boost your dopamine, like to change your mood. You know what I mean? Like, so I put everything in there. Just even if y'all get off of here, if y'all go in there tomorrow, just go through the post. Y'all be able to see like all of those keys to all of that stuff. You know what I mean? I break it all down there for everybody, So, cause I'm not one to like get on the channel and then put all the graphs up and all that. We shouldn't drop below the BM. Correct. Cause that rate is what your body's burning pretty much by doing nothing at all. Your body's burning that daily. So you definitely want to eat above that to keep your energy up. You know what I mean? So if you're eating above that, then especially now because a lot of us at this point in the journey, especially OGs, we lift weights. Right, so if all of us lifting weights, you're welcome, Jolene. If all of us lifting weights, you know what I mean. I didn't understand the post. I need the 8th grade version. Get on out of here, Darren. You know what? That was the 8th grade. That was actually the 5th grade version. So, and everybody here is smarter than the 5th grader. So, but yes, though I think there's some really good. I think those are some really, really good graphs. You know what I mean? Because it really breaks down all the stuff, all the questions that people have. Like, what do I eat? What should I do? How much protein is in this? And that's all natural stuff that I put out there. You know what I mean? So all the information you need is right there. Even when I was posting my own stuff, I ain't posted in a few weeks. Maybe I'll go ahead. I'll probably go and put my own metrics up there because I haven't put my actual metrics from the scale up in a while because I came to the point where I'm not rushing to lose weight no more. I'm to the point where I only have, technically, because like I said, with the procedure, I only want to lose about 10 pounds. You know what I mean? Hey, reset with Anissa. I only want to lose about 10 pounds. So I just haven't felt the need to like keep posting how much weight I lost, how much weight I lost. The lowest weight, I'm not smarter than the 5th grade. The lowest weight that I went to was 214. That's been my lowest weight, but I'm 218 currently, and I feel better right now at 218, right? You know what I mean? I feel stronger and stuff because the 214 was a little bit much in the fashion that I got there, you know what I mean? So that was the thing. So now I just want to lose a little bit slower. I want to lose a little bit slower at this point, you know what I mean? Because I look good, I feel good, and my blood work says it, right? All my health markers are very, very good, you know what I mean? The only one I haven't had is a hormone panel. That's the one I've dragged. I don't want to say drag my feet because I got so much medical testing done since January. You know what I mean? Just in the last 7 months, I got so much blood work. I mean, I started the year off getting all of my comprehensive metabolic, which I went over with everybody. I've had that twice. I've gotten my colonoscopy. I've had my heart ultrasound. I mean, you name it, I had it. Like, it's nothing that I haven't checked except for the hormone panel. That's the only one. Because we all know that that's not covered. That's something that you pay for, like, directly out of pocket. I have contacted and been in contact. I just haven't secured an appointment. So I do have an appointment to go and do that because we know a lot of the guys are on, TRT, testosterone, and all that now. And that's the only measure of my body that I'm not 100% with because I don't have the proper panel, right? So even when you get your testosterone checked, you still have to check all of them to make it make sense, and probably more than once to determine whether or not you need testosterone. Because when we actually gain all of that weight and we end up suffering with obesity, we actually run high estrogen. You know what I mean? Even as men. So we actually need to get that checked. Okay. And then for ladies, you also need to get your hormone panel checked as well, right? Because sometimes, you guys actually could use some of these things as well that you're not aware of if you don't get checked. So we all need to do that, but we know that a lot of insurances don't cover. Just like insurances don't cover the laser lipo, they also don't cover, that hormone panel most of the time. Some might, but most don't, And you can actually get it at LabCorp or your Quest. I don't put any scientific stuff there. That's why. So you can get it at LabCorp or Quest for, I believe, the basic one for like $159. But for most of the testosterone clinics, it's like $75. So they'll test it, and then some are free right now. Some do like some are running like specials to do it for free. Because obviously, once you actually get prescribed it, you know you're gonna be paying out of pocket in some cases for the actual injection. You know what I mean? If you need those hormones, you know, but that's to optimize, because what happens is it actually increases your muscle mass, right, and gives you more energy, and also increases libido. So those are some things, you know what I mean, that you do ultimately have to look into, and I'm working on that. I'm going to look into that too, because I haven't. So I want to get into something else, but before I do, I'm going to go back to what I was talking about with the receptors, right? Because I noticed I stopped. I got off on a tangent based on the questions. So if you feel like your GLP medication is losing its efficacy, consider some steps. Dosage adjustment, obviously, right? Medication rotation, or lifestyle review, right? So obviously the first one we all go to is probably the dosage adjustment, because a lot of us, especially the OGs in here, most of us, we do all the lifestyle things, you know what I mean? And it's not a lot of tweaking there. You can always tweak something, but sometimes there's not a lot more that's going to have a dramatic effect. You know what I mean? So that's why sometimes we go to dosage adjustment. And I'm of the belief that the medication was studied at the highest, safest dose, right? Because that's the other side of the conversation, right? Because you don't want to actually struggle, and there's medication available that you could go to and get help if you're actually struggling. And what I mean by that is if you haven't lost weight in quite a long time or gaining weight. If you're still losing weight, then yeah, that's common sense. You don't go up if you're losing weight. Anytime I'm saying go up to somebody, it's because they literally are, you know, crying and pleading that they haven't lost weight for a while. You know what I'm saying? And we've determined that that's probably a month, but I would venture to say give yourself 90 days, right? I would say give yourself 90 days. If you haven't lost weight in 90 days or you gain some weight, then yeah, you need to go up. I don't care what nobody say, doctor or not. Like if you haven't lost weight in 90 days and you have a good deal of weight to lose, right? If you have a good deal of weight to lose, I'm not saying you like right there at your goal, but you got a good deal, meaning more than 20 pounds. Like you still got a lot of weight to lose. And the thing is, this drug was studied to the highest, safest dose. So because you playing in them realms, you're all right. You're not saying we're going to go get 25 milligrams of tirzepatide. You know what I'm saying? We talking about playing in between 10 and 15 milligrams for a lot of the OGs. And in most cases, the OGs been on this for years. If you've been on something for years, it's not the same as people that have been on something for months that's like quickly titrating through. You know, you've been on this for years, okay? You know, so a lot of people have hit there. A lot of us have hit 2-year marks. 2 years. So if you've been taking something for 2 years and it's only 5 steps or 6 steps, you're not overdoing it. You're going where you need to. Now do all the things. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I said if you have a lot of weight to lose, meaning 20 pounds or 25 pounds or more, that's still a significant amount of weight. 25 pounds or more. You know what I'm saying? If you got 25 pounds or more, and again, you're doing all the things. I mean, all of them. You're working out. You're doing all of that. It's okay to move within the safest and what has been studied through trial to be safe. I'm at the highest dose. I'm a few pounds from goal, stuck doing all the things. Body does not want to move any lower. So that's the thing. Now, because you're at the highest dose, that means that the only choice you have is to do all of the things in a different way, right? Because what I'm going to say is there's probably something in your daily plan that could be tweaked that you might not be thinking about. So outside of your doctor, right, because you work with your doctor on your medication, maybe you want to work with a dietitian, right? You want to work with a dietitian because that dietitian might be able to tweak your eating. You know, you might have something within your nutrition that's not right. You know, get a dietitian, a nutritionist, or anybody you can afford. You know, and a lot of that is paid for through some insurance coverages. You know, you get your dietitian, nutritionist, anybody that can help you kind of tweak your eating. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you know, if you could possibly overeating for the amount of calories you burn. Now, you said you burn about 1,500 calories doing absolutely nothing, right? So if you're eating 2,500 calories a day, you're probably not going to lose weight. You're probably not going to lose weight, right? So now if you are eating 1,500 calories a day, right, and you're still not losing nothing, and you're doing walking and resistance training, then, right, so usually the math will math. The math will math at some point if you look at all the things. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. But sometimes we just need a little nudge. You know what I mean? But when I suggest titration, I'm just talking about within acceptable dosing. I'm not talking about overshoot what's available. You know what I mean? But if you have doses available to you, then you use it, because those things through trial has been deemed safe. And I mean up to the 15 milligram. Nothing new. I'm not saying go get a vial of tirzepatide and overdose yourself. You ain't hearing G's 101 say that. I'm simply saying titrate to what's already been overstudied and deemed safe. If you need to. If, like I said, you've been on a dose for at least 90 days. I'm going to say 3 months. You need about 3 months, right? Because these are things that we learn. You need 1 month is not enough. You need about 3 months at that medication. I mean, I'm talking about you ain't lose a pound. Like, you ain't lose nothing. And you might have seen a little bit of gain. Okay, now, talk about titration, But if you're actually losing anything at all, that means that it's not the medication. It's actually something you have to tweak. I just want to be very careful, and I want to be very specific when I'm saying that, because I don't want people to misinterpret, what it is that said. Just but that's it. That's just to clarify it. Go up if you're actually not losing for months and months, and you might gain a little bit, you know what I mean? But if you're losing, even if it's a half a pound, then you don't really need to go up. You need to tweak something, right? So there's that. But I do want to mention something that occurred at my Power and Purpose event. If you follow me on my regular Instagram, you can G's33 on Instagram, you can see, these things over there. We do something. It's kind of like speed dating, when you actually talk to like individuals like for 2 minutes at a time. And they discuss their business. We let them introduce their businesses to individuals. In that time, I had 4 individuals tell me different health specific things that I helped change in their life. So me doing this and me doing the health segment I do during my event has proven proven to make sense, and it's worth doing, right? And I'm gonna tell you what that means. What I mean by that. So the one lady I spoke to, she said, at the last event you and your wife held, last April, you called all the men up, and she's like, number one, my husband don't go and participate in anything like that, so for him to get up there and you to get him to get up there was big. She said, for the last several months, since then, my husband been walking 20,000 steps a day. My husband is down 2 clothing sizes. How I know is because I shop for his clothes. I went and bought him smaller clothes and he didn't even notice. And I had to show him. I said, she said I had to show him, hey, hun, you in a large now. So that right there was like, whoa. So me actually asking that man to come up, and, I did, like, if you go to my shorts, you can see when I call all the men up, right? I call all the guys up, and, I had my little, a little speech to them that I like to do with the men, about their health and everything, and just in life. And that had impact. And these men are older than me. I'm 45. That man might be 60. You know what I mean? And I had impact with my words on him, And the next story, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to tell you what happened next. So then there's another guy. He's like my age. And he said, before we start talking, I want to say to you that you actually having that conversation at the last event actually got me to go and schedule my colonoscopy. So I've just had my first colonoscopy. So I said, wow. I said, and this was going from one person to the next person, right? Then I get to the next lady, right, after him, after I congratulated him. And she said, Greg, she said, my husband, based on the last conversation that you had, this is the third person. Keep up, y'all. This is the third person. She said, based on the last conversation we had, he done went and got all his medication optimized, because he went to the doctor and they checked the levels and they seen some things that, they felt like they could optimize, but that ain't it. She said, Greg, yesterday I took my first shot of Mounjaro 2.5. I said, wow. She said, I found out, I used to be pre-diabetic, but I went because, you were really pushing this, and I found out that I'm now diabetic, and I took my first Mounjaro shot yesterday. It was Saturday night, so she was like Friday. And I was like, congratulations, And of course I said, welcome to the, dark side. You know what I mean? Welcome to the community. But those are 3 impacts I had back to back to back. So me doing this is worth it, right? Because sometimes the motivators need motivating. Sometimes the motivators get tired of motivating, especially, hey, Tamika, that's right. and sometimes the motivators feel like it falls on deaf ears, you know? So when I come down here on Sunday nights and I do this, right? Because people know, like, I mean well. So when I'm saying something, I'm not saying it to ruffle feathers. I'm saying it because I genuinely care about people's health. You know, and I want to see you have good outcomes. And I don't want doctors to get in the way of that, because sometimes they do, you know? And we got to actually be advocates for ourselves, you know? And the icing on the cake was, and I probably should have started with it, but when me and my wife walked in the room, right, because we was on CP time, you know what I mean? But in all honesty, we took the kids to see Spider-Man, and we got held up, so we ran behind a little bit, but it's cool because the way we set up our Power and Purpose meetings is at a buffet, so everybody was just eating, you know, so we had the leeway to come in that way. And when we walked in, the lady said, wow, Greg, she's like, whatever you and Ty doing, please keep doing it. Y'all look amazing. Just like that. She was like, she's like, but not just the weight loss, but just the overall look. It looks great. You know what I mean? So I'm saying to myself, I'm like, you know, we're not just losing weight, but we looking good with it. You know what I'm saying? Good skin. You know what I mean? Good aesthetics. You know, overall, you know, the body, you know what I mean, is the proper proportion. You know what I mean? All that. So, you know, the thing is, all of that, you know, kind of is what was my motivation. Because honestly, I've been under the weather all week. I've been sick. You can tell I'm a little stopped up and all that. And there's a combination of things. I felt like it was from the being under the AC. You know, in my pharmacy is kind of like, it was like extra cold. And then I got my house. I lost 105 pounds. That's my total loss to date. I had got my house painted. You know, there's a lot of dust, you know, and I kind of felt it early in the week, probably like Monday, Tuesday, you know, because they painted my whole house. I got my downstairs painted, my entire downstairs. I got a bathroom down there. Well, it's upstairs because I'm downstairs in the basement. Because where I'm usually y'all guys see me, this is my basement. So this is, you know, down here is where I come to record. But and you gotta excuse those shoes. Those shoe boxes over there is because those my wife's shoe boxes. Just so you know, that's because basically we got the upstairs, the master bedroom painted too, and I had to get the boxes out of there and bring them down here. But we got the whole first floor painted this color. It's called Misty. It's real nice. It's like a grayish blue. We got the bathroom painted. It's called Sea Salt. So the sea salt is kind of like a green, like a greenish. It's like a greenish gray or a greenish blue, but it's real nice. Like it looks very. The baby, you know, everybody know I call a 7-year-old the baby. She said it looks like heaven when she came down, because they spa type colors. You know what I mean? Because I research all these things. Like I'm very intentional when I do certain things. So I research the colors and all of that. You know, y'all can see my basement is black and white. You know, pretty simple, but you know, with the marble flooring and the like the velour couches and stuff like that, it went. But upstairs, I wanted to be more zen-like. So it's like that misty blue, bluish gray. The bathroom's the sea salt, and then the bedroom I did like the living room, you know. So with all of that painting and stuff I got throughout the whole house, I ended up like, you know, feel like I took in like some of the like the dust and stuff like from the walls and moving everything, stuff like that. So I started feeling a little bit under the weather. So all week I've been kind of dealing with that. But to go to the event and hear all of that, you know, from all the people saying all of the things to me. Was very motivating to me because, like I said, it's really working, you know. And like I said at the conference, you know, at the networking event, if not me, then who, right? If not me, then who, right? If I don't say it, who gonna say it? You know, if I don't do it, who gonna do it? You know, and that's what it is that I would like people to take away, you know, from a lot of this stuff is that you have a need, you know, especially us influencers, people that have a channel, and you have a responsibility. You know what I mean? Like because you know. God blessed you to get, you know, in the best shape of your life. You know, a lot of us are in the best shape that we've been in since a child, you know. That was a conversation I had with my barber. He was like, he's like, how can you feel better than you did when you was younger? Because being younger, you know, you know, that's when everything good, you know. And I said, well, you know, you kind of got to speak for yourself. I said, because for me personally, I said, no, I don't feel like I felt when I was 20, you know what I mean? But for me, in my mind, that's like a child. You know, people that's like 18, 19, 20, those are children, you know what I mean? So when I say I feel the best I felt in my life, I mean as a grown man, right? So I'm talking about 30 plus, you know what I mean? I feel way better now than I felt when I was in my 30s, and I'm 45. Why? Because my health has been optimized in a way that my blood my blood work matches my aesthetic. You know what I mean? So I do feel better. You know what I mean? So I think that with that, it's possible. It's definitely possible. And he's somebody that, he not like on the GLP or nothing like that. But I told him, I said, when people be overweight or obese, or severely overweight or obese or severely obese, and then they go from that to not being, it does change some things, and maybe not everything, but it changes a lot, and you can feel better. Obviously the missing link is what we talked about, the hormone panel, because some of us still have to optimize hormone and, deal with, getting more energy and having, better libido and stuff like that. But outside of that, you can feel, a lot better. So there's that. But let me get in the chat and see if there's any questions, because we've come to the time that we usually bid each other adieu, and that's at an hour. That's where we are. So I'm gonna jump in the chat, see if there's anything that y'all wanted to talk about. Y'all feel free to ask any questions you want, while we do a quick, go around the room. And I'll answer anything you'd like me to answer before we get off for tonight. And I'd like to say thank you to everybody that actually showed up tonight, because we had a nice little packed room here. So I do appreciate you all. But just feel free to put any questions in the chat, about whatever it is that you want to talk about. I think I answered most things. I don't think I missed anything. Like I said, don't forget to go to my post and look at all of those charts that I put in there. I put a lot of charts there for you guys if you have any questions about nutrition and things like that. I think I'm all caught up. But yeah, so if you guys want to have any questions, just throw them in the chat real quick. But yeah, go to the post, check it out. If you want to look at how to lose, fat and not muscle, all that's in there. You know what I mean? Like what to eat, what it is that's in different cheeses, different eggs, like brown eggs versus white eggs versus caged eggs. You know what I mean? If you want to see like what different cheeses, different yogurts, different meats, you want to see cook times, if you want to see what the different degrees of, steak, everybody know I'm a steak connoisseur. So anywhere from blue rare all the way up to well, and when I went to my last restaurant outing, I was introduced by the chef to a new cooking temperature that wasn't there. I think because it's an expensive restaurant, he probably made it up, but he was like, well, if you don't want the medium well, you can get well plus, which is right below well done. So I think that was kind of funny. I'm like, okay, let's try the well plus, you know what I mean? But needless to say, it was good. We had a tomahawk, so if you go and look at that short there, me and my wife had we had a Wagyu tomahawk steak, which is pretty expensive because it's Wagyu, which they're raised out on snake farms. They fed a specific diet. It's not like the Japanese A5, because that's the most expensive one, I think. This one was raised out in Oregon. But even still, it's like, one of those expensive steaks that cost several $100s. That's why you just get one, because really it feeds two people. You know what I mean? So, there's that. But I think we had an amazing live tonight. I do appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. We have grown the channel. G's 1 of 1 is steadily growing. So I do appreciate all of my new subscribers. So anybody that's new here, thank you for coming out. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. And please watch the replay. If you guys didn't see the beginning, please go back and watch the replay. Watch it in full, because we all know those watch hours add up. And it's very important to our channels. Where I just covered, talking about, BMI, muscle loss, those older versus younger, people that's 60 trying not to, please don't follow people that's 30 with their goals, because, it can be quite different. The skin elasticity is different. So we should not be looking for the same results, because aesthetically we probably won't. Those that are 60 might not get the results that those that are 30, that are dropping to the absolute lowest weight they can possibly drop to, are getting. And it's not safe for people that are older, because you actually carrying a little bit of fat is actually okay, due to, your possible fall risk and things like that lead to, higher mortality rates. So those things are important. And that's not discussed, because we're busy talking about aesthetics when those that are younger, because they have different goals, right? So we have to really dive in and have the proper conversation, so there's that. All right, guys. So since there's no questions, I'll bid you guys adieu for tonight. I do appreciate you for coming and stopping through and hollering at G's 1 of 1. Once again, we'll see you guys next Sunday, same time. Like I always like to say, for Obesity Warriors, we in this together. Stand up. Later.